Welcome to episode 191 of the Business Development Podcast. And on today's show, we're chatting all about the tools we use to create content here on the Business Development Podcast. Today's show is for my content creators. If you've struggled to choose tools, if you're not sure what to use, if you're not sure how to produce podcast audio, video, clips, or social media content, this episode is for you. Stick with us.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 191 of the Business Development Podcast. I hope you guys are all having an absolutely incredible day. 2025 is coming, and I wanted to take some time today and just chat about some of the content creation tools that I use for both the Business Development Podcast and for any type of clip and video production for those of you who are looking to build your personal brands in 2025. I know this particular show isn't going to be for everyone. It definitely is more for people who are looking to create content, potentially start their own podcast, start a YouTube channel, start building a personal brand on LinkedIn, or anything else where you're putting stuff out into the world. Guys, the reason that this show is actually really important to me is because when I got into podcasting, I knew absolutely nothing. Like many of you out there who might be getting into content creation for the very first time this year in 2025. And so, guys, this show is for you. For those of you out there who've been looking to start your own podcast, for those of you who've been looking to create videos, create social media posts, and simply just start sharing yourself with the world in 2025. I'm hoping today to just give you guys some blueprints, some tools, let you know what they are, what I use, what it took to learn them, and hopefully set you guys out on a path that I really had to trial and error learn along the way. So today, for my content creators, for my thought leaders, this one is for you. Content creation in 2025 can be simplified by using great tools. And I think many creators, including myself, felt very overwhelmed when I started out trying to pick all the tools, learn how to use them to create and produce our content. Now look, the great news is the skills can be learned. And there is a lot of great content available on YouTube to help all creators learn the tools and the tips of the trade in 2025. But today, I'm going to speak about some of the incredible tools that I've used to produce the Business Development Podcast, all my clips, and my social media posts over the past few years, and hopefully demystify some of this for you as you start your own content creation journeys in 2025. Guys, in order to tell this story right, we have to go to the very beginning of the Business Development Podcast. And while today we're not getting into hardware, we're going to be talking a lot more about the software required. Understand, the hardware is important, absolutely. None of it matters if you don't actually create the content and release it out to the world, which is where a lot of this software comes in and a lot of the tools that maybe are a little more challenging. I know there's a lot of people out there who might say, get this mic and get this audio interface and make sure that you have this tool and this tool and this tool and you will sound amazing. Guys, what they are not telling you is you can have an absolutely incredible microphone like this Shure SM7B that you are listening to right now, or heck, like my RE20. But understand, if you just get a microphone and an audio interface, it does not sound that great. Sure, it'll sound okay. It'll sound a lot better than your laptop mic. But understand, if you want to get a really beautiful studio produced sound, you are going to need production software, guys, and plugins and lots of stuff to help to really brighten up the sound of this microphone, to brighten up your voice, to remove the echo and the reverb from your room. There is so much that can be done for you with the right software that almost no hardware can do for you. So understand that it is so much more than just the hardware. You can have the best mics in the world. You can have a Rodecaster Pro 2 like we use on this show, and they're incredible and they do a lot of cool things and they add to the sound, but they do not make the sound that you are hearing in the production of this show. So understand that using the right tools makes all the difference. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing audio production, video production, recording, or anything like that. It is going to take the right tools. And so today I'm going to lay it out on the line, guys. I'm going to tell you exactly what I am using for software and tools in 2024 heading into 2025. But guys, before I do this show for you, understand this is just what I am using today. And yes, I have changed my audio, and we are going to chat about that because there was a big learning curve for me when I switched programs to produce this show. And I'll explain to you what I did and why. But understand that by the time you hear this, let's say that you're coming to this show and it's like 2026, 2027. There not just might be, but there is likely new software that I'm using, updated tools, updated plugins. So keep in mind, this is very much a show for the moment. Will it apply in the future? Probably, because a lot of these tools are pretty great and there will still be versions of them in the future, definitely. But understand that this show is really produced here in 2024, looking ahead to 2025, 2026, and helping my fellow content creators, my fellow podcasters, my fellow YouTubers in the future getting started right now. So caveat, this is really a show for the moment. It will apply to the future, I'm sure. But right now, this is a show for my content creators looking to do something big in 2025. All right, let's just get into it. So guys, these tools are not in order of importance. They are just a list of tools. We're going to talk about 5, and then I'm going to go into 6 with some notable mentions of tools that I've used in the past and tools that maybe still get used sometimes depending on a scenario. We have to start this episode by talking about what I am recording on right now, and that is Adobe Audition. So for those of you who are looking to do your own production, and understand, many of you who maybe are outsourcing production, I think it would be highly, highly likely that wherever you are outsourcing your production to is likely using Adobe Audition. And that's for good reason, guys. Adobe Audition is absolutely incredible for producing your show, editing your show, blending your show, overlaying sounds, music, whatever you are doing. It is really the gold standard for audio production. And guys, I have to say, I hated it when I started using it. When I launched the Business Development Podcast back in 2023, I initially started using a program called Hindenburg Journalist Pro. And guys, it was amazing when I did not completely understand what I was doing with my audio production. So like so many of you, you are going to have to learn about de-reverb and cleaning up your music and de-noising everything and making sure that you're getting studio quality sound. And understand that does not happen automatically unless sometimes you're using a tool like Hindenburg Journalist Pro or another type of modern AI audio production equipment. Now, Hindenburg Journalist Pro did something for me that I didn't really understand how important it was in the beginning, but it had an auto leveling feature, which actually made sure that basically any overlaid music or anything like that never really interfered with the dialogue. Hindenburg Journalist Pro is actually a really amazing program designed for, guess what? Journalists, okay? It's still used by a lot of podcast producers because it does really great. It records great audio. It's very easy to edit. The keyboard shortcuts and everything are pretty simple, and you can add a limited number of plugins to it. This is, remember, a while ago now, so it might have changed by now, but when I used it last, this is kind of how it worked. And it actually worked pretty okay for the beginning. And as I got further and further into the show, what I realized was it was lacking in a lot of customizability. It was lacking in my ability to get to hear the audio the way that it was going to output. And so I found myself multiple times going back in, having to mess with the audio levels of my guests, of me, having artifacts and things inside of my audio that I couldn't hear the first time around. And so guys, I was doing a ton of rework when I was using Hindenburg Journalist Pro. And guys, I'm not hating on it. It's actually great. I'm not trying to like persuade any of you away from it. All I'm suggesting here is that when I actually hired somebody to help me learn audio production better, I hired a coach. I had them walk me through how they would produce a show. I showed them how I was producing a show. And what I realized was I had so much more customizability with Audition. And so at that moment, guys, I actually made the hard choice to switch to Audition. So for those of you who want to know kind of when this happened, I want to say it's somewhere around episode 80 to episode 90 of the Business Development Podcast. So we were a long way. I was deep into the Business Development Podcast when I made the switch to Audition. And guys, it was like starting from square one all over again. I had to learn how to use a new audio editor. I had to learn all of the shortcuts for Adobe. And guys, yes, I learned them. Yes, I swore a lot trying to figure it out. I remember sitting with Shelby and just thinking like, why do I have to learn this brand new program? Like, I absolutely hate it. My audio production probably went up by like an hour and a half in the beginning when I was learning it all. But guys, I would never go back now. Adobe Audition is absolutely incredible for audio editing. It actually saves me time now because I know by the time I finish my production of the show, it sounds exactly how I heard it when I created it. I edited it the way I wanted. I don't think I've had to go back and fix one show that I've created with Adobe Audition. And unfortunately, when I was using Hindenburg Journalist Pro, I probably have had to edit at least 20 shows out of that 90 that I did with it, if not more, because there was an error or it didn't sound exactly how I heard it when I was producing it by the time it released. So Adobe Audition is incredible. For my podcasters out there, for anybody who's going to be recording audio-specific content, Adobe Audition is the gold standard. If you have not started anywhere, just start there. Learn how to use it. Learn how to use the plugins. Guys, plugins is probably a whole nother episode, but trust me, plugins make all the difference when it comes down to producing home studio shows. Plugins are just incredible. There's a lot of great ones out there. Likely what you need the most with regards to your podcast production, you're going to need something that can clean up the sound, something that's going to de-noise for you. You're going to need something that is going to de-reverb for you because many of your guests are not going to be using studio quality microphones if you're recording guests. And so you got to figure out a way to try to get their audio to sound as good as possible, as close to studio as possible. You're going to need a good cleanup tool, de-reverb tool, likely de-plosive tool. So just understand these are all plugins, but once you have an audio production software, you can buy all of these additional plugins. Most of them work with Audition, and you can use them to really clean up your sound and make your home studio sound like a studio. And it makes all the difference between sounding like you made this thing at home or like a professional podcast like you're hearing today. Okay, so I use Adobe Audition for all of my personal recording. So understand, this actually is what I use to do my personal show, the show you're hearing today. It is also what I use to edit all my guest shows, but I don't record my guest shows in Audition. We're going to get into that with the next tool, which is called Riverside.fm. So for my podcasters out there, for anybody who's going to be doing recorded interviews of any type, understand this can be video recordings, this can be audio recordings. Riverside.fm is the tool. It is the gold standard. It is incredible. Let me explain to you what Riverside FM is. It is a web-based tool, web-based meeting platform like Zoom, for those of you, Teams, Google Meets, but it is much higher quality when it comes down to the audio quality you get. How does this work? Riverside.fm records locally on your computer and your guest's computer. What does this mean? This means that if you don't have great internet or your guest doesn't have great internet, the audio quality is still the highest quality it can possibly be. How? How is that possible? Your show and video records locally to your computer for you and to their computer for your guest. And when the show is done, when you hit stop recording, it then takes that local recording, which couldn't have been interfered with by internet, and then uploads it to a cloud on both sides, which allows you then to either download the full raw video, the full raw audio, or a fully produced AI show if you really want. Riverside.fm has a lot of really cool AI features. You know me, I'm not a huge fan of AI for a lot of things. I do use it for clips, and I do sometimes use it for fixing voices and editing on occasion. But most of my editing is done in Audition. Why? I have more control. I can work on each track individually and make sure that my guest sounds incredible and that I sound incredible independently. So I don't typically use the AI functions that Riverside.fm uses. However, that doesn't mean I won't in the future as they get better. Also, being able to just automatically produce a show with Riverside.fm might be a huge benefit for those of you who think that that's important to you. I like to produce my own show. I do all of my editing on the back end. That's how we get this sound. That's how we get high quality each and every time. But for those of you who maybe don't have that skill set, you haven't taken the time to develop it, in the beginning, using those AI features is still probably better than you just releasing the show without using them. So it is a benefit to my people as you are learning audio production and video production skills, okay? Riverside.fm, you will need it if you plan on doing guest recordings. It is the best. It is the best. It's really incredible, guys. The quality is incredible. I typically get around, I think, 4K quality with my videos that I do with them. I can then create clips, export clips, add captions, add my branding. Trust me, if you are doing guest recordings, if you plan to have guests as part of your shows in the future, or you want to record and do interviews with people and release it on the internet, use Riverside. You can thank me later. It is incredible. Okay, the next tool we have to talk about is called Descript. And I know some of you are like, oh, I've heard of that before. What is it? Descript is freaking amazing. It is the best transcription software as of December 2024. It really is, guys. It has gotten so much better, even in the time that I have used it. I remember picking it initially because it had the least mistakes for transcription. And I realized early on with the podcast, I was going to have to transcribe the show and add transcription to help boost SEO and findability of my show in the future. And so for those of you who are starting a podcast, this applies to you too, you are going to need to transcribe your shows. There's a lot of benefits to transcribing your show, by the way. We can get into it in a different episode maybe, but trust me, you are going to want to transcribe your show. Descript is so much more than that, but that's something that I use it for every single week, twice a week at least. You use it to transcribe your show. So you can essentially upload audio or video into it. It then transcribes the show and, get this, allows you to delete the buts, ums, ahs, and a myriad of other features to make your show better. So as you know, as humans, we say you're going to say a lot of filler words on a regular basis. It's just how people talk, unless you practice not talking that way. And so the challenge with that is that it can start to sound really bad in an audio recording. Well, a program like Descript, once you upload your produced show into it, it then takes that, puts the whole thing in a transcription, and if you don't like the buts, ums, and ahs, and anything else that you don't like in the show, you can literally edit the clip, audio, or video by just deleting the word. It can do this automatically. It can replace words automatically. You can then export that transcript, upload it into wherever your podcast hosting is, and then you can add the transcript to your show, which is amazing for a lot of people and SEO reasoning. You can also then export the audio or video that is edited in Descript, and you can literally edit your show, whether it's audio or video, simply by deleting the words, and it is incredible. It just stitches the whole thing together. You'd never know that sentence, word, or phrase was there. It is super, super cool, guys. And you absolutely need it for transcripts, audio refinement, video production refinement, audiograms or captions. It can do all those things for you. It is an indispensable tool in your creative journey. Every one of you, basically, whether you're doing audio production or video production, can benefit from using Descript. All right, and number 4 is my content creator special, Canva. If you have had to produce any type of social media content, very likely at some point somebody told you about Canva. I was on the fence about Canva in the beginning. I wasn't initially a fan, But I think it was because I was using an older program called Predis.ai, which basically claimed, hey, I'm like a ChatGPT and Canva mix. And at the time, I guess it kind of was. And if you really don't know what you're doing with regards to any type of content creation, a program like Predis was kind of cool because it created templates for you and basically did a lot of the work for you. Unfortunately, it didn't do a super great job. So we stopped using Predis and I learned how to use Canva. And Canva, guys, I use it all the time. I use it all the time. I use it to create Christmas cards this year. I use it to create LinkedIn posts. I use it to design super cool photos. I use it to create content on behalf of our sponsors. I use it all the time to create super cool, engaging social media content. You can add pictures. You can add backgrounds. You can add video. You can add wording. You can add all the different fonts, colors, videos, everything you could think of. It's really, really incredible. And you can use it for templates for LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, literally anything. Like I said, I used it this year to create my Christmas cards for my clients, guys. It is incredible. If you have to create social media content on behalf of yourself, on behalf of your company, on behalf of anyone, Canva is worth it. And guys, I don't think it's much more than like $150 a year for a pro subscription. It is super affordable and super versatile and will be and should be a tool in any creator's toolbox. All right, number 5, we're going into DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a video editing platform. I'm really new to this one, so I don't have a lot to compare it to, and I'm just going to give that caveat right off the bat. But what I can say is that I compared it against Adobe Premiere Pro. And the reason I chose DaVinci Resolve was because, get this, drum roll, it is free. Yes, DaVinci Resolve is a free professional video editor. Yes, it has a paid version, but trust me, if you are just creating social media content, videos that you're going to release on LinkedIn, Instagram, things like that, you actually don't even have to pay for it, and you get all of the updates with it for free. I don't know how they do it. They're miracle workers. It is incredible. And guys, let me tell you why I wanted to use this instead of just Descript, okay? I could obviously record my video, upload it into Descript, do the editing, and release it. But here's the thing. I've told you guys how important audio production is and making sure that you can get de-reverb, studio quality audio. You can't really do that with Descript alone. Not yet, anyway. So for now, what I've been doing is I record my video of me talking, I upload it into DaVinci Resolve first, and I use it to edit the clip, and I use it to actually clean up the audio and make sure that I get the frame the way I want it. Whether I want it in a portrait mode or a landscape mode, whether I want it in 4K or 1080p. And then, guys, this is the crown jewel. All the plugins that I have for Adobe Audition, they automatically work in DaVinci Resolve. And so I can go in and I can do the same level of audio production for my video as I can do in Adobe Audition for my podcast audio. This means all the plugins that I bought to clean up my voice and make me sound really great with studio quality, or my guests sound really great with studio quality, I can apply them to my video before I export that and put it into Descript for final editing, which means I get studio quality audio in my homemade videos to just give them that little bit more punch, okay? Trust me, this is incredible. DaVinci Resolve is super versatile. It's done everything that I need for my content creation needs thus far. And yes, I am still using the free version of it. It meets all the needs and it is literally free. Trust me, you're gonna love it. All right, number 6, guys. This one's just special mentions. And I feel like I just had to talk about them because I have used them at various points. I may not be using them now. We talked about one of them, Hindenburg Journalist Pro. I'm not using it at the moment, but it played a major role in the business development podcast. It played a major role in all the efforts that have got me to today. And so let's just talk about a few tools which are still great, but I don't use them on a daily basis, and I will explain why as we go. The first one is Opus Clips. And if you are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you have likely been bombarded by use Opus Clips to create all your video clips. And yes, Opus Clips actually is pretty cool. And I have used it quite a bit. It does leave a little to be desired on the editing front. I did not find the editor super great to use. I didn't really find the AI features that great. And I did eventually just end up going back to using Riverside to create my clips because I had to get my video from somewhere, which was coming from Riverside anyway. And initially I was like, oh, Opus Clips, this is cool. And I could put it in and it would basically create me social media content, AI based, and it would rate it based on like how viral it thought it would be. And guys, it wasn't really that great. And keep in mind, we're talking early 2024, so maybe it's better now. But I didn't have the greatest experience with it. And in the end, I still have a paid subscription of Opus Clips that I don't really use. I'm mostly using Riverside. Riverside's video editor to create clips is incredible. While it doesn't rank each clip it makes for you in viralness, it still does a really great job of picking amazing clips for you and allowing you all the tools you need to produce a really great clip right out of Riverside. You don't need two programs. You can use the one to do both. And I'll be honest, I don't necessarily think Opus Clips is worth it if you already have a Riverside subscription. So that's where I'm at with Opus Clips. And keep in mind, this could change. Maybe it gets amazing. And I come back and we'll talk about it at the end of 2025. But as of right now, that's where I stand with it at the moment. The second one I talked about briefly was Predis AI. Now, Predis AI was really cool when I first found it. And keep in mind, I first found it like at the very beginning of the show almost. I was working for a client who had it. They're like, oh, Kelly, you got to try this. It's super cool. And at the time, it was super cool, right? It was new, it was flashy, it was AI doing all the work and creating, social media content for you. You just uploaded some pictures and it like created you a bunch of stuff, which was cool in the beginning. But understand now there's so much AI crap content out there that it doesn't really stand out. And so I've kind of gone the other way with regards to my social media content. So much of the social media content I do now, I want it to be authentic. I want it to feel like Kelly. I want to write it. I want to be a part of it, which is why I'm diving deep into video here in 2025, because that just feels like the most authentic version of myself that I can bring to you guys on a weekly basis for motivation, inspiration. So think about it from that standpoint. If you don't mind a whole bunch of AI in your content, Predis AI might be worth it for you. But if you want to be authentic, which is really what I think everybody listening to this show wants, they want an authentic version of themselves. They want to be able to grow. They want to grow their business. They want to build connection. AI isn't really the way to do it. And so you may find yourself stepping back like me, but if not, and you want like a really cool AI solution platform, give Predis AI a try. You might like it. Adobe Podcast. Now, this one is kind of cool. And I'll be honest, I've used Adobe Podcast to fix episodes of the business development podcast that I wasn't super happy with the audio. And when I was using Hindenburg Journalist Pro, some of the plugins and stuff weren't always working correctly. And so sometimes I got really, really bad audio that I wasn't really able to fix. And sometimes Adobe Podcast could fix it. Here's the thing. It uses super heavy AI-based processing, and it can really distort the sound of your guest or the sound of your audio. Too much AI can add things like artifacts, like clicks and pops and stuff that shouldn't have been there. And it can also add like a deep bassiness to it because it's trying to like fix audio maybe in situations that it doesn't even exist. And so while for some of you, if you're trying to clean up some really bad audio or you don't have any type of experience in audio editing, you might really like and benefit from a program like Adobe Podcast. And Adobe Podcast was free with the cost of your Adobe Audition subscription. So if you have a subscription for Adobe Audition, you likely also have free access to Adobe Podcasts. And you might really enjoy this for your podcast recording and editing. But for me, I don't really use it much. Why? I find it distorts the sound and it adds artifacts that haven't been super great. It did, however, fix a couple of my episodes where my guest audio really wasn't up to par. So understand, it actually has its place. And would I try it again if I couldn't get audio right? absolutely, I would try it again. And so from that standpoint, it still makes the special mentions list. And obviously, we've talked about it a couple times here, guys. Hindenburg Journalist Pro for a easy audio editing and recording program that's like Audition, but like Audition Lite, right? Like it doesn't have quite as many editing features. It can't do as much. But if you're just getting started in podcasting and you just need something that's cost effective, not a monthly subscription, you can get an annual subscription for a good price. Hindenburg Journalist Pro, I have to give it an honorable mention, guys. It created at least 90 episodes of the Business Development Podcast. And you know what? Not many of you would notice the difference. I do, because I've listened to over 190 episodes of production at this point, right? But my ears are tuned for it. If your ears aren't quite tuned for it, it might be absolutely perfect for you. And so if you're just getting started, and you don't mind maybe upgrading down the line, you just need something that's easy to use in the beginning, Hindenburg Journalist Pro is still going to get a special mention in today's show. Now, understand, you will try many tools in your creative journey. Guys, there's new tools being created all the time. Understand, this is just what I am using as of December 2nd, 2024. Guys, January 1st of 2025, I might find a new program that I like even more. So understand, these tools are evolving quickly. AI is changing the game quickly with regards to production and speeding things up and helping you out with your audio. And so I got nothing against that, especially if it cleans up audio well, does all the things and preserves a nice authentic voice. I love that. The reality is we use AI in some of the plugin tools that we use to produce this show. So tools are evolving quickly, rapidly, and all the time, there's basically something new. So keep in mind, I will try new tools all the time, as should each of you. The reality is that's how you stay ahead. That's how you stay in the game. You have to know what's coming up. You have to try the tools available to you, and you have to make your own determinations on what you are going to use in your software stack or your production stack for both your audio and your video. But don't be afraid to try them. Don't be afraid to give any new tool a try. The reality is it can't hurt, and you can always go back to your old way of doing things. But the funny thing is that all of these things that I've talked with you today, basically I started with something else and I found something better. And you too may start with this and find something better as you go. But I think the tools we've talked about today, if you're looking to create podcasts, if you're looking to create audio content, video content, social media content in 2025, the 5 programs we talked about today will do all of it and then some for you. Now, guys, understand, I learned all of these tools from square zero. When I got into podcasting, I'd never produced an audio anything in my life. I learned all of it. I learned audio production. I'm learning video production. I'm learning how to use plugins. I learned what de-reverb is and audio processing is and audio mastering and how to EQ. These are all learnable skills. Understand, I knew none of it. I'm learning video skills right now because, once again, I knew none of it. So you can learn this stuff too. If I can learn this stuff, you can learn this stuff too. The show you hear today, the show produced as you hear it today, took me 2 years of learning to get to. But it sounds pretty all right for 2 years. And we were sounding pretty all right even at the end of year 1. So understand, if I can do this, you can do this too. Put your noses to the grindstone, record some content, practice, and sooner than you know, you will have incredible content to release to the world. You got this, guys. Get to it. That takes us to the end of today's show, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's get into a show update. We're sitting at 225,600 total downloads. We're at 3,046 followers on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We are taking community questions for our December community questions episode. If you want to submit community questions, you can send me messages directly on LinkedIn, or you can email me, podcast@capitalbd.ca. It is my absolute pleasure to let you know that we are celebrating 4 years of Capital Business Development today. It is our 4-year anniversary of incorporation at Capital Business Development, the company that I created, the company that brings you the Business Development Podcast. And it has been incredible. It has been an amazing 4 years of entrepreneurship. And I am absolutely, absolutely proud to be here today to do this show for you. Shout outs this week: Gary Noseworthy, Adam Kimmel, Colin Harms, Deanna Keane, Cam Lawson, Tammy Julgan, Jenny Corrigan Ariel, Michelle Little, Lindsay Key, Ida Selleck, Chris Wilkinson, Annette Irwin, Brian Biggs, Pariza Azame, Mindy K. McRae Broadbent, Jason Chakalakal, Ricardo J. Flores, Chris Small, Irina Horacheva, Lauren Graff, Daniel Sonnenberg, Sherry Allen, Janet Miller, Vijayan Swaminathan, and Susan Paseka. Until next time, this has been the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey, rock stars, you've heard the show, implemented some of the lessons, and still you want more. How about a one-on-one 3-month personalized coaching program with me, Kelly Kennedy? We'll work together to establish an effective business development program, overcome obstacles, and accomplish your growth goals in 2024. To book your free discovery call today, shoot me an email at podcast@capitalbd.ca or book coaching directly from my LinkedIn profile. Book your discovery call now and take that next step in your journey towards success. Your future starts today.